Coming up, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. Is that right, John? That's so hard to say.
And it's even hard to write.
Yep. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John the Near.
All right, today we are going to talk about Hagrid's. Let's just call it Hagrid's. That's so much easier. And everyone knows what we're talking about because, to my knowledge, there's only one Hagrid's ride, right? Yep. So... all right. So, yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say, John?
And it is considered the best. If there's only one, and it's most people think it's the best ride at Universal. So,
yep, and I really think it is. I think it's really, really good.
As a matter of fact, I just did a top 3 post, and I put that ahead of Velocicoaster. And there were a handful of people that said, oh, no, Velocicoaster first. But almost everybody said, I completely agree. And not that it's a better coaster, but a better all-around experience. You know, the Hagrid narrating it, the animatronics. I mean, Velocicoaster is a great coaster, but it doesn't have a lot of these extras that Hagrid's does. And it's actually better because more people can ride it. You know? Exactly.
That was the other thing I was going to say. It is way more accessible than Velocicoaster. Someone of my size can't ride Velocicoaster, which is okay. I'm not complaining about that. I mean, I'm in a situation myself. I put myself in a situation, and you know, if it's about safety or it's about whatever it is, whatever, I'm not complaining. But Hagrid's is very accessible, like you said. You know, there are more people that can ride it. Plus, it's a family coaster, right?
Yeah, it is. It's got some thrills, but
it does. It does.
It's family, though.
All right. So I am excited to talk about Hagrid's, though, because it is one of my favorite rides at Universal, if not the favorite. So let's jump into it. Let's pull the curtain back a little bit and unveil this magical experience. The background and inspiration behind the creation of the Hagrid's attraction at Islands of Adventure's Wizarding World of Harry Potter. The inspiration behind the creation was primarily drawn from J.K. Rowling's beloved Harry Potter book series and subsequent film adaptations. So that's something that people miss, John, is that not only did they use the film adaptation, they also use the book, so they kind of jump back and forth, which is pretty cool in my mind. You don't see too many attractions that use source material in such a way.
Yeah, and if anyone's wondering, for those watching, this is a walk through the Hagrid queue.
Yep.
This walk is not possible. If you get there first thing in the morning, it will be a run as everyone's trying to get in there.
Yes, it is.
And any other time, it will be completely full until a long time after it closes. But this video is from June of 2020, early June. So this is when it first reopened. You can see the blue stickers on the ground and stuff. So I was lucky enough to be there, and we rode Hagrid's a lot at that time. It was a bad time for the world, but a good time to ride Hagrid. So, and now you can see the queue.
It was definitely a good time, I think, to be a theme park fan if you weren't completely terrified of, catching something. Because of what you're seeing right here, of what the video is showing us, which is an empty queue. Unbelievable. Because my experience was way different than that when I wrote it the first time. And
Yeah,
that was even,
chances are you'll be sitting and sweating through every inch of this.
Yes, you
It's
will.
so busy. Yeah, look how beautiful it is too. Like when you get to this point here, it looks like a real castle.
Yeah, it's great. We're and we're going to talk about that queue then too, because we're going to dive into that. It is somewhat unexpected as far as how great that queue actually is. The attraction located in the Hogsmeade area of the park was designed to provide visitors with an immersive experience that transports them into the magical world of Harry Potter. Some examples of how the creators were inspired by Rowling's world are as follows. The Forbidden Forest section, right, which is what you just walked through there, John. The attraction is set within the Forbidden Forest, a mysterious and dangerous area in the wizarding world. And that comes right from the books and the movies, as we talked about earlier. Hagrid's role. Rubeus Hagrid, a fan favorite character known for his affinity for magical creatures, serves as the host and guide for the ride. His love for creatures and his motorbike are central to the experience, hence the name. Creature Encounters. The ride features encounters with various magical creatures from the Harry Potter world, such as Fluffy the Three-Headed Dog, the Cornish Pixies, the Blasted-Ended Scroots, the Centaur, a Firenze. These encounters are meant to evoke the wonder and excitement of the wizarding world. And as far as the film and book inspiration as a whole, the attraction drew inspiration from both books and films, as we mentioned earlier. The creative team worked closely with Warner Brothers, the original film production crew, and J.K. Rowling to ensure authenticity and accuracy in bringing the wizarding world to life.
Not her.
Yeah. I didn't. There's nothing in the outline about any controversy, so we're Hagrid's.
I like J.K. Rowling. I don't have any problem.
Yeah, I mean, she's created this world, that we love to visit.
Although personally, I don't really care what rich ladies do one way or the other.
I don't either, and I don't care. I really don't care what they think or do in their personal life. I do enjoy the world that she's created. So, Hagrid's employs several elements designed to transport visitors into the enchanting world of Harry Potter, such as the thematic setting. The ride is situated in the forest, as we said earlier. And this is a significant location within the Harry Potter universe. The lush, detailed environment recreates the atmosphere of the forest as described in the books and portrayed in the films. The detailed theming from the moment visitors enter the queue, they are surrounded by intricate theming that recreates the world of Harry Potter. The queue area is filled with props, artifacts, and references to the series, immersing guests in the wizarding universe. The interactive queue itself, there are several elements in the queue that are interactive. For example, while you wait, you can discover hidden details. You can try your hand at magical games and interact with various elements that tell stories and provide context to the ride's narrative. I was reading up a little bit on that, John, because I didn't remember too much in the way of interactivity in the queue, but they're actually the hut that has some of the plants and things like that. Apparently it has smells and, a certain scent that triggers, memories from the book and the movies itself, what you're showing right here is, I think it has something to do with like some of the magical talismans and stuff like that are involved with the animals, the creatures and stuff. So there are a lot of things like these things here you can touch and you can interact with. And, There's even a place in there, and I don't remember this, where you can touch it and it shows you a map of where the creatures are. Right, it's not there, but there's a place where there's a map that kind of interacts, and you can touch it. It shows the creatures and stuff on the map. I don't remember that, but I looked up a couple different sources, and there it was. So
yeah, I don't remember that either, but like I said, most of my experience, not all, I've waited hours to ride this, a bunch of times too. But in 2020, I made sure to get my fill. But unfortunately, the interactive parts of the queue probably weren't on because nobody was waiting anywhere. So,
right.
Really wasn't a need for the interactive.
Very true. They were trying to get you in and out of everything back then. So
yeah, even the pre-show, the part where Hagrid starts duplicating motorbikes.
Mm-hmm.
Even that, it would run, but not really. You just walk past it, and most of the time, it just had that dog there on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as far as the pre-ride storytelling, the ride's narrative begins even before visitors board the ride vehicles. Hagrid himself, portrayed by Robbie Coltrane, guides riders through the journey via recorded audio segments. This adds an authentic and personal touch to the experience. You have magical creature encounters. Throughout the ride, visitors come face to face with iconic magical creatures from this series. These encounters are brought to life using animatronics, projection mapping, and other special effects, making riders feel as though they are truly in the presence of these creatures. In the queue, that really begins with the creatures, because there's that one scene that I really remember that overhead, it kind of has the shadows of creatures above you kind of walking around. They almost look like spider-like creatures or something like that. I always thought that was the coolest. And again, that's just in the queue itself. There it is. Right there's a picture of it, right? Oh, you have film of it.
Yeah, I think this is the part where he's duplicating the motorbikes above, and there's Scroots up there, which is that thing that looks like a scorpion almost.
Okay.
So yeah, I think there's bugs, and you can actually hear and see Hagrid. Like, you hear the noise above of him duplicating the bike so everyone can go. So the story is very well done. And again, that's why I say Velocicoaster is great, but there's so much detail and things with Hagrid that
this is telling a much more involved story, right?
And the building that they used, that Dueling Dragons building, was an amazing building. When Dueling Dragons was there, it was it felt like you're walking through an old castle. Like, they did an unbelievably good job with that Dueling Dragons queue. Couldn't have any cameras on it, so I wish I had it on film, but I don't. But they changed that to a Harry Potter ride for a while too. But the queue though was amazing, and they did reuse as much as they could for Hagrid's.
Yeah, very cool. Another thing is the another element designed to transport visitors into the world were the immersive ride vehicles. These innovative motorbike and sidecar rides allow visitors to fly on Hagrid's motorbike, simulating the sensation of being part of the action. The design of the ride vehicles enhance the feeling of immersion as riders straddle the motorbike or sit in the sidecar. So that's the other thing. It's not just a regular roller coaster. You actually have two different style of seats, and almost like two different vehicles in one right there when you get in that vehicle. And it makes you feel like you're literally in a motorbike with a sidecar.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I honestly don't mind which one I get, but if you've never ridden a motorcycle, that is pretty cool that you're holding on and you feel like you're riding one. So
yeah, Yep, I agree. Another thing was the sensory effects. The attraction employs sensory effects like wind, scent, and sound to further enhance the realism and engagement. These effects contribute to the overall immersion by stimulating multiple senses. Did you know, John, that they're piping in a scent through the forest that kind of has like a tree, like a piney smell that gives you the scent that you're actually in a forest in that world?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever noticed that one either. So,
Yeah,
but like I said, there's so much to it that I guess that's the point of it, that you put it all together and it makes
mhm.
for a very good ride.
Yep, I agree. Um, And one last element that I have down here are the surprises and Easter eggs. The ride is filled with Easter eggs and hidden references that only dedicated fans of the series might recognize. These small touches reward fans' knowledge and create a sense of discovery. All of these elements combine to create a multi-dimensional experience that goes beyond just a roller coaster. Visitors are not merely riding a ride, they are actively participating in the magical world of Harry Potter, interacting with its characters, creatures, and stories in a way that makes the fantasy come to life. So, here are some highlights of some of the unique aspects that set the attraction apart. Of course, we already talked about the ride vehicles. The attraction features one of kind ride system where guests can choose to ride on a motorbike or in a sidecar. The Forbidden Forest section. This ride is set within the mysterious and iconic Forbidden Forest, allowing riders to explore a location not often depicted in theme park attractions. The ride features realistic animatronics. It has multiple launches and drops. It is narrated by Hagrid, which is played by the actor from the movie, the actor's name, Robbie Coltrane. And it has the interactive queue. It also has practical effects and immersive theming. So that's the thing about this. This integrates a lot of different effects, practical screens, just the entire thing, the scents themselves. Also, this ride features seamless storytelling. The ride's narratives flow seamlessly from the queue to the ride itself, creating a cohesive experience from start to finish. You also get a variety of magical creatures from the movie and the books. And also, you just showed it too, John, on your video. The nighttime experience in this attraction is way different. It just gives you a different feel
Yeah.
going through that forest. And that's something that I have down here as well. It allows visitors to enjoy the ride itself under cover of darkness, adding an extra layer of magic.
And there's Fluffy, the three-headed dog.
Yep. One of the best animatronics, I think, out there. There are detailed props and Easter eggs as well. It's filled with intricate props, references, and Easter eggs from the series, rewarding fans with hidden surprises. And of course, the dynamic ride elements. The coaster features dynamic ride elements such as sudden changes in speed, twists, and turns, simulating the excitement of flying on a magical motorbike. These aspects combine to create a ride experience that is not only thrilling, but also deeply immersive, transporting guests into the enchanted world of Harry Potter and allowing them to interact with its characters and creatures in a way that feels both magical and authentic. So let's talk real briefly about the queue, since we kind of already covered the queue and had some really awesome video. You're walking through the enchanted forest in the queue, right from the start, and you're guided by Hagrid himself. You'll encounter surprises such as magical creatures in cages. That greenhouse is a herbology greenhouse, and it's very lifelike. It adds to the storytelling. Also, the entire experience sets the stage for what you're about to ride into with the ride itself. The pre-ride storytelling plays a pivotal role in elevating the overall experience to new heights. It seamlessly weaves visitors into the narrative fabric of the Harry Potter universe, and it allows the creators to foster a deep sense of connection and emotional investment. Uh, the ride itself, and this is what I love about it and what you're showing here, is that you know it's really centered around that forest, which is where the magical creatures are from. And I love all the elements that they kind of integrate into here. And what makes it even cooler is a lot of this stuff was already built in with that ride that you talked about, right? There was the Dueling Dragons ride, right? You're muted, John. I can't hear you.
Sorry, it was Dueling Dragons, and then it was a Harry Potter theme from whatever that tournament was they had, where the guy from Twilight was in it. I don't remember.
Oh yeah,
name, but.
Yeah. But I will say something interesting. Just a little aside. There is a Dueling Dragons house at this year's Horror Nights, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. That was a. I liked that ride. I know a lot of people loved it and thought it was the greatest. I thought it was so intense that like I would go on it and it would go, and then I would stop and be like, my head's spinning and I don't know what just happened. But you know, to me, I don't love that kind of ride. I think Velocicoaster is a perfect amount of trauma. And Hagrid's is a great amount because you can ride it again when you're done. But Dueling Dragons was like you ride it once and you're like, all right, I'm gonna go home and take a nap now. You know? So, yeah. Good ride though, but there wasn't a big line because people, you know, like it's too. It was just too intense. So the amount of people that could ride it were small.
Yeah, this actually allows for a little more inclusive experience because of, you know, allowing a wider range of people, and I think that's what people really love about it. What's cool about it, other than the story, you know.
Yeah, and everybody loves Harry Potter, and everybody really, really loves Hagrid. Like, who the heck doesn't love Hagrid? It's like,
what's not to love about that character?
Yeah, the character and the actor was just everybody loved him. So
perfectly cast and just a great character.
And that's what makes it even more special now too, because you know he now that he's no longer with us, it's like this is another thing that's like it would be hard for Universal to ever get rid of this, and I don't see why they would. It's still after years they can't even put Express on it. It's just too popular.
I know, right?
Yeah, so this is going to be a memorial for the Hagrid character indefinitely. Unless Disney buys him out, they'll just chop it down.
I don't think that's happening.
They'll say, I heard he was mean one time to somebody. Just rip it out. It's gone. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I doubt that's happening. All right. So some interesting facts about the interactive elements and Easter eggs found in the queue. Creature cages. As guests wind through the queue, they'll come across intricately designed cages containing magical creatures. These creatures are not just static props. They move, they make sounds, and sometimes interact with each other, creating a dynamic environment. The blast-ended scroot eggs. Boy, that's hard to say. Keep an eye out for the blast-ended scroot eggs hidden in the queue. These eggs are a nod to the magical creatures encounter in the Harry Potter series and provide a subtle yet exciting Easter egg for fans.
Yeah, there is a room there that has a bunch of eggs all in the side, like along the edge. I'm not smart enough to pick up that was that directly related to the ride or to the scroots that was related to the ride, but It makes sense, though.
Yeah. Also, there is a talking portrait of young Newt Scamander, the famous magizoologist from the Fantastic Beasts series. It can be seen and heard talking to guests as they pass by. This unexpected appearance ties the two series together and sparks intrigue among fans. And I do remember this part. I don't know if you do, John, but I remember walking by it and thinking, oh, wow, okay, there's the dude from the Fantastic Beasts series.
I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah,
So,
I remember seeing it because I was kind of taken aback and surprised by it. It's just real brief. You don't see it for very long. Gardening tools in the herbology greenhouse section of the queue. Visitors will find gardening tools that subtly reference various magic plants and herbs from the wizarding world. It's a small detail that once again rewards fans with its attention to detail. There is also the Monster Book of Monsters, an iconic and slightly mischievous element. The Monster Book of Monsters is placed on a shelf with its telltale teeth chomping away. Guests can activate the book by interacting with it, prompting playful reactions. Have you seen that book?
I have. I don't remember exactly seeing it in Hagrid's queue, but I've seen it other places, like I think in Diagon Alley, maybe.
I know it's elsewhere. It's like in a window somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I do. I don't remember seeing it here, but I do remember seeing it in a window. Also, yeah, you remember that?
No, I was going to say I need to go back and just wait 2.5 hours and go through the queue again because
yeah,
I think it changed a little bit, and I'm just out of practice for that wait. So.
Well, after doing this research, I sort of want to go back through that queue too the next time I'm down there, just to kind of figure out where all this stuff is, you know. Hagrid's workshop. Throughout the queue, you will encounter personal touches that evoke Hagrid's presence, such as his motorcycle goggles, a lantern, and even a cozy corner featuring his shabby armchair. There is also weathered signing. The queue area features signs and posters that appear weathered in age, reflecting the passage of time and the history of Hagrid's magical creature adventures. There are wizarding newspapers. There's a magical creature soundscape, which we talked a little bit about earlier, but you hear that throughout the ride at different places, including the forest. Hogwarts House crests. The floor of the queue area is adorned with the crests of the 4 houses from Hogwarts. This subtle touch allows fans to proudly represent their house and adds an element of personalization. And there are also spellcasting moments at various spots. Guests can engage in spellcasting activities using their wands to interact with the environment, revealing hidden surprises and adding an interactive layer to the queue experience. Now, when I went through there, nobody was doing that at the time because I think people were, I don't think people were aware of that going on. So I haven't seen anyone using their wands to provoke a response at all.
No, I haven't seen that either, but
So now we're going to get down to the ride a little bit. Thrills and enchantment on the ride. Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure features a dynamic coaster layout that takes riders through the Forbidden Forest. The ride includes multiple launches, sudden drops, twists, and turns, all designed to evoke the excitement and unpredictability of a magical journey. Key features include encounters with iconic creatures such as Fluffy the Three-Headed Dog, navigating through dense vegetation, a section of the ride in reverse, a free-fall vertical drop, and a thrilling encounter with the blast-ended Scroots. The coaster seamlessly combines these elements to create a high-energy and visually captivating experience that mirrors the adventurous spirit of Hagrid itself. Hagrid Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure seamlessly integrates practical effects, animatronics, and projections to create a multi-dimensional and immersive experience for riders. So let's talk a little bit about the practical effects.
I was going to say just the fact that there is stuff everywhere, and we just went by a Scroot and Hagrid himself, an entire Hagrid animatronic.
Right.
That's just amazing. Like,
I know.
Again, that's why it beats Velocicoaster.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think the original concept of Velocicoaster was supposed to have more animatronics,
it might have won if they would have done dinosaur animatronics around and stuff.
Right, and maybe characters here or there or something like that. But they were, like I said, they were originally supposed to have more of that kind of thing going on, very much in relation to this particular ride itself, as far as these types of things. So I think you're right. It would have plussed the ride, but honestly, that attraction, it probably doesn't need it,
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really need it. But
yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the practical effects. The ride employs practical effects such as fire, water, and wind effects at various points during the journey. These effects add a visceral and sensory element to the ride, enhancing the realism and excitement. For example, riders might feel a burst of heat as they pass through a fire effect or experience a sound from a creature or the forest itself. Animatronics, lifelike animatronics of magical creatures, are strategically placed along the coaster track. These animatronics move and interact with riders, bringing characters like Fluffy, Cornish Pixies, and Scroots to life. These animatronics contribute to the storytelling and allow guests to have an up-close encounter with the creatures.
Now, is the Weasley's car considered an animatronic?
I would say it is.
It kind of waves.
It moves.
It flashes its lights and it waves its windshield wipers at you as you go by. I think it even beeps. It's like beep beep, like it's
right
as you go by.
So the motorbike itself is supposed to be flying in the air, right? Not really the whole time. It's not on the ground the whole time. It's doing ground and flying in the air. So really what you're looking at in the forest is supposed to be mostly treetops, right? That you're flying past. And if you know the stories themselves, that car flies, right? When they cast a spell for it to fly. So it makes sense, right? That it's up there in the treetops, and I love it. I would consider an animatronic for sure. Here we're seeing some of the projection mapping right before the drop. And so projection mapping technology is utilized to create dynamic and visual stunning scenes. Projections are used to transform some static objects such as walls and surfaces into moving and immersive environments.
I was going to say that to me looks like real. That doesn't even.
Oh yeah, not all of that. I'm just saying some of the there's some mapping in that scene there.
Probably down here. Yeah, there is.
And so this is particularly evident during encounters with creatures like the centaur, which was back in there in the Firenze and the Forbidden Forest itself. Projection mapping enhances the visual storytelling and adds a fantastical element to the ride. So another part of this is the digital environments that the projection mapping adds. I'm not really going to count that as necessarily an effect. I put that in with the projection mapping because, of course, projection mapping is digital. But by combining these different elements, the ride achieves a level of realism and interactivity that engages riders on a multiple sensory level. This is basically how it engages is you see these practical effects, animatronics, and projections all working together. And I mean, it just makes you feel like you're in that world. I love it. Something unique about this ride is that drop sequence, John. That is always something that I was really looking forward to riding when I was on it. I have a little bit extra on the drop sequence. I did a little bit more research on it because I'm always kind of amazed how they do that. The drop sequence in Hagrid's is an exhilarating and unexpected moment of excitement. Riders experience a sudden free fall vertical drop, creating a heart pounding sensation of weightlessness. This drop occurs as part of the dynamic track layout, adding an element of surprise and thrill to the experience. The drop sequence is carefully designed to capture the essence of a magical creature encounter while delivering an adrenaline pumping moment for riders. I couldn't really find a lot of technical information on it, but I definitely wanted to highlight it a little bit because, as we're seeing right here in that cave, that this is like a highlight for me because it just, this was before they did that little drop on the Rise of Resistance, right? They made this before Rise of Resistance, so they were first out of the gate with something like that.
I should technically they're not first though, because Busch Gardens Williamsburg has a ride. The roller coaster that replaced the Big Bad Wolf is called Verbolten.
Right.
And before we moved to Florida, that we loved the Big Bad Wolf, but then we also loved Verbolten, and it would go into this show building, and it would do that too. It would drop. All of a sudden, you would just drop down a story, and so that reminded me of it a lot. When I went there, I was like, "Yep, it's just like Verbolten that we've done before."
You're right. I just saw a video on that ride not too long ago, so absolutely. But the way this tells a story while doing it and puts you in a cave with the effect and everything, does that one have a story tied up into it, or like does it do any kind of immersive effects or anything like that? Or
yeah, there is a story. It's kind of basic. It's just like some German lady telling you don't go into the forbidden forest, which is called Verboten, is forbidden, I guess, in German. And basically you're not supposed to go in. And it's funny, the cars you ride in there also rev like Hagrid's, like the motorcycles, the revving and the like they go like it feels like it's a gas motor the way they simulate it. And the effects are actually pretty cool. When you go into the building before the drop, there's different versions of it. It's not the same every time, and some it does weird. It's real dark and weird, and sometimes you hear like things whispering and stuff, and all of a sudden just whoosh. Sometimes it's like a lightning and a flash, and you just drop, and it's pretty intense. But again, it's been a long time since I've been on it. But Verbolten it does remind me of Hagrid's, but Hagrid's has a lot more theming, a lot.
You gotta wonder if they weren't inspired by that.
It could be the same company that made the coaster too, and they have experience with, drop coasters. So
it could be. This is an Intamin, so that's who created this one. And it would make sense. I mean, Intamin, I believe, is a Swiss company, so it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't make both of them. Let's talk a little bit about the theming and the Wizarding World connection. And I'm just going to briefly go over this because a lot of this stuff we naturally have already covered. But a big part of the theming with this ride is the theming authenticity itself in relation to the ride in the books. The ride's setting, creatures, and narrative align seamlessly with the Harry Potter books from J.K. Rowling and the films. This preserves the integrity of the Wizarding World's lore and ambiance. This is basically telling a story in universe, and that's what's really cool about it. As far as the authenticity, character presence, you have Hagrid, the central character to the ride, and he's a central character to Harry Potter as well as a guide. So this direct involvement of a beloved character adds the authentic touch needed and strengthens the link to the franchise. And of course, you have the magical creatures. The ride showcases a variety of magical creatures from the stories that play significant roles in the Harry Potter series. And of course, once again, you have the Easter eggs and references, which give fan service. You have the continuity with the Wizarding World itself. The design and theme align with the broader Wizarding World franchise, creating cohesiveness that feels like a natural extension of the magical universe. You also have interactive wand magic in the queue, which you have throughout the Wizarding World, and the overall ambiance from the architecture and shop facades to the detailed theming in the Wizarding World. The entire area integrates with this attraction that surrounds the ride. It transports visitors to the enchanting world of Harry Potter, much like the Wizarding World itself as a whole. In essence, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure goes beyond being a standalone attraction. It serves as a dynamic and immersive extension of the Wizarding World franchise, offering fans and visitors an opportunity to step into the universe they've come to know and love through the books and films. All right, so what's different about this with Universal, John, is, I mean, besides the obvious things, but as far as the creative team, we actually have names and we have people that we know have worked on this attraction. And just to give some of these people credit, one of them is Gary Blumenstein. He was a creative director. Now, Gary Blumenstein has worked on a lot of things in theme park industry, and some of the attractions, and you might find this interesting because you actually love a lot of these attractions, but he worked on The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man at Universal. He worked on the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at Disney California, and he was responsible for overseeing the creative elements of Hagrid's, from the story and characters to the set and special effects. So this guy, he's got some decent rides on his resume.
I hope he's working at Epic Universe right now.
Let's hope so, and I bet he is. Alan Gilmore was the art director. He is a British artist who worked on a number of films, including the Harry Potter films. He was responsible for designing the look and feel of the ride, from the ruins of the hut to the creatures that guests encounter. So they actually hired the art director from the film, which was really cool. Stuart Craig, production designer. Craig is a British production designer who has worked on a number of films, including the Harry Potter films. He was consulted on over the design of the creatures, and his input helped to ensure that the ride stayed true to the look and feel of the films. And this guy is we hear this name a lot. Jason Sorrell, creative director, Universal Creative. Sorrell is a creative director at Creative, the division of Universal Parks and Resorts. Basically, he's in charge of their version of Imagineering. He was responsible for the overall creative vision of the attraction itself, and he worked closely with Blumenstein, Gilmore, and Craig to bring the ride to life. Also, John MacArthur, who is a senior engineer at Intamin, and this Intamin is a Swiss company. It is the company that built Hagrid's. He was responsible for the engineering design of the ride, and he worked closely with the creative team to ensure that the ride met their vision. I believe Universal works a lot with Intamin, and I'm not exactly sure, but I think Intamin's worked with Disney too. So Intamin's really, they work a lot with themed roller coasters.
I'm pretty sure they've got a lot going on for Epic right now too.
I think they do. I think they might be working on that twin coaster, that dueling coaster, but I'm not sure. I think I read that was them. These are just a few of the many people who worked on the creative team behind Hagrid's. It was a collaborative effort, and the result is the unforgettable experience that we have today. All right, so the creation of Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure involved An intricate process that spanned from concept to construction. The development team worked closely with Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling and her representatives and the original film production crew to ensure authenticity. This process began with brainstorming and the ideation to conceptualization of the ride's narrative, settings, and key elements. Through research into the books and films, they were able to select the creatures and locations for the ride. Once the concept was finalized, the designers, engineers, and artists collaborated to, I'm reading through this, John, and this is like an obvious collaborative process that really goes into anything, whether on a construction crew or anything like that. That's basically how they build it. Mm-hmm. The big difference here is that they consulted the people from the films. And to me, that's really the key to this. The Universal Creative worked with JK herself and worked with Warner Brothers to come up with everything. And as far as the construction goes, it was just a normal construction project. So throughout the process, the creative team remained dedicated to maintaining authenticity and fidelity with the Wizarding World franchise. They incorporated details that would resonate with fans. So just one last thing that I have on this whole thing, John. And that is something that we don't typically get a lot of, but there are some quotes from the team itself that I dug up. Mark Woodbury, president of Universal Creative, said, "We wanted to create an experience that would take guests on an adventure into the Forbidden Forest, and Hagrid's adventure is the perfect way to do that. The ride is full of surprises, twists, and it's sure to leave guests feeling like they've just had a real-life encounter with some of Harry Potter's most iconic creatures." Jason Sorrell says, who again is the guy in charge of Universal Creative, "We wanted to create a ride that would be both thrilling and immersive, and this one is the perfect combination of both. The ride is full of amazing visuals and special effects, and it really feels like flying through the forest." So reading through all these quotes, it's pretty obvious that this ride was based, they felt that the forest was really the critical part of it. The engineer at Intamin, John MacArthur, said, "Hagrid's is the most complex coaster we've ever built. It has 7 launches, a variety of inversions, and a number of other unique features. We're confident that it will be a thrilling and unforgettable experience for guests of all ages." And I like that quote just because it talks about all the launches and the differences in a normal coaster ride. And then one last one from Robbie Coltrane himself, the late actor who played Hagrid in the films. "I'm so excited that Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is finally open. It's an amazing ride that really captures the magic of the Forbidden Forest. I can't wait to see the look on people's faces when they experience it for the first time." And if you heard that quote in Hagrid's voice, that's okay. Even though I didn't sound like it at all, I certainly heard the quote in Hagrid's voice. John, that's all I got for Hagrid's. I guess I would say, what is your opinion on this particular attraction? Again, I think, it to me is the best ride at Universal, the best overall ride, the best coaster at Universal. It really puts it up there for me with Everest at Disney as far as the kind of ride it is. I actually like this one better than Everest a little bit, but I haven't rode it as many times as I rode Everest. So I love the ride itself, from the queue to the ending of the ride. I love it. It's really, they've done a great job with it.
Yeah, I agree. You can tell it's Everest, I just walked on it the other night and that's typical if you go later in the day. And Hagrid's is still untouchable. You can't even pay to get to the front of the line for Hagrid's. So it is just the amount of years that it's been a very difficult ride to get on just because of its popularity is downright amazing. So I think that speaks more than anything I could say about it. That regardless of what I think, it is people like it the most. And again, I attribute it not to being the best coaster, but a great coaster with great theming, with great story, and a great queue, and just put it all together, and you have a perfect ride. So again, the coaster enthusiast may not agree, but this is the top coaster at Universal based on wait times alone.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, Universal isn't in the business of competing for the coaster kingdom. That's the kind of thing that you see, at a place like, what's the one in Ohio? The places like Hershey Park, and places like King's Dominion, and places like that aren't necessarily theme parks per se. They are amusement parks. Those places are typically competing to be Coaster Kingdom. What Universal and Disney's task is to make a ride that everyone enjoys, and gets a thrill out of at the same time. And they're theming. They're trying to use what's available to them to theme a ride. And this is a perfect synergy of that, I believe. So,
well, I was going to say, I feel like they're getting into a little bit of competitive coaster making though too when it comes to Epic, because like that Star Racers one, it looks like an amazing roller coaster, and it does have theming, but it's mostly just a great coaster right in the middle, But
yeah, you're right. I've seen some of the overhead from BioReconstruct and some of the other people, so it does look like a legit coaster, right? So
it's big too.
Yeah, it is.
Although I don't remember seeing any loops on it though. So.
I don't think so either. I think it was just, so they probably have something else in mind for it.
I think that's actually smart though, because again, like Hagrid, loops are awesome and they're fun and everything, but if you make it super intense but without the straight down drop or the loops to scare everybody away, your variation of riders grows greatly, and people's love for it grows greatly too, because again, the coaster enthusiast that travels the country to get the most intense coaster ever is going to say, oh, it was lame. But the masses of fans are going to say, we loved it. We can't wait to do it again. So that's who Universal is trying to impress.
Yeah, they're not trying to impress the Cedar Point people. That's if you go to Cedar Point and you love Cedar Point, this isn't necessarily the coaster for you unless you also love the theming. So, it's not going to knock your socks off or anything. It's not a giga coaster. So, but I think they do a great job. So, and the Imagineers do too with their coasters. I honestly, the last few coasters that Imagineering did, I think are legit and are really good. I really enjoy them. So, but Universal with this one, they went a step above, in my opinion. So, all right, John, that should do it for Hagrid's. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good. I was going to complain, but well, I complained enough to you earlier.
Yeah, you were going to bring up a social media thing, which
maybe I'll bring it up on Wednesday's show.
All right, we will have something to look forward to there. I could definitely talk with you along that, because I have I have a micro level of that issue that you're having. So, all right. So, John, where can they find you online?
You can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and SeeUO on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, and you can find me at the Giant Rat, THE Giant Rat, on all the socials. And that should do it for this one. We will see you on the next one.